Welcome back to the Driven Young podcast, back with another solo episode, 20 Things You Must Stop Doing in Your 20s. This is a big one, just like I say every single time. The thing is, I've written these in order, however, that doesn't mean they're necessarily in order. Like, you don't have to listen to these or consume these in order, but I have kind of written them in a specific order. And the ones I'm starting off with are, in my opinion, maybe not the most important, but for me, the easiest to write about. And so this is a whopper, and it's stop comparing yourself to other people. Now, this is not a new idea. Everyone knows this is an issue that young people face. It's an issue that humans have faced throughout human history. However, it's been highlighted so heavily through social media, which I'm going to talk about in this episode. As per usual, I'm going to read the blog post, then I might riff a little bit. I'm trying to keep these episodes pretty short, 10, 20 minutes. I never know if I'm going to riff or not. I usually riff for like 5 minutes, so we'll see how I go. But yeah, 20 things you must stop doing in your 20s. Idea number 4, stop comparing yourself to other people. So, as per usual, I'll read off the blog post and then we can jump straight into it. Have you ever heard the phrase, keeping up with the Joneses? It's based on a simple idea and premise. A beautiful couple, aka the Joneses, move into the neighborhood and they seem to have it all. They have a nice car, they dress well, they have lots of money, and they seem to have it together. As a result, their once happy and content neighbors are now figuring out how to fit in with their seemingly perfect neighbors. They buy the cars, the clothes they can't afford just to keep up with the Joneses. All to show that one is as good as other people by getting what they have and doing what they do. Welcome back to 20 Things You Must Stop Doing in Your 20s. This is idea number 4. Stop comparing yourself to other people. Let's talk about this idea because it's a whopper for our generation. I hardly doubt this is a new idea or is groundbreaking, but it's crucially important for you to strive and become the best of yourself in your 20s. In the world of social media, our younger people have been slam dunked in the face by comparison. Anywhere you turn, anywhere you look, people are living their best lives and they show it all in perfect HD quality. You do your first assignment and the marks come back. You lean over to see what your friends got. The whispering begins. You look down and cover your mark so no one else sees. This is your life for the next 12 years until you get that magic number at the very end, the ultimate comparison number. Throw that into the pot, sprinkle in a off dose of social media, and no wonder we're struggling with self-worth issues. Comparison is the thief of joy. It's human nature. I am sure our caveman ancestors struggled with self-worth issues when someone brought home a bigger kill, more berries, or managed to secure themselves an open sky cave plan. Let me pitch you this idea. It's safe to say that most people in the world would love followers online, right? Rightly or wrongly, most people would love to have more followers. Imagine you wake up one morning and your video has gone viral, 50 million views viral, and you open up your app to seemingly infinite notifications and see a number on your screen. 100,000 people followed you overnight. You can't believe it. Your life is about to change forever. You open up your group chat to tell everyone the good news, but before you can, all 6 of your friends in the chat are sending screenshots of their accounts. They also gained 100,000 followers overnight. Suddenly, your accomplishment seems meaningless, and the high you felt once is now gone. This is a danger of comparison. You still gain the followers, your accomplishment hasn't changed. This happens to people worldwide every day, yet you are unbothered because you don't see it. The issue is social media has amplified what we can see. We are no longer comparing ourselves to our immediate circle, but to the entire world. The same would go with height. If you woke up a foot taller one day, you'd be pumped. But if everyone else in your country also grew a foot taller, it wouldn't be as remarkable. So why this? I believe a big reason is our desire to achieve status. Status chasing is one of the most significant modern day issues. It's why so many people work countless hours, work in jobs they hate, and spend money they don't have on items they don't need. To quote my good friend Joe Weeby, we always question why big businessmen and wealthy families don't just retire on the beach. In truth, they don't need more money to buy anything, but it's in their status game. Their wealth is a building block to which their status is built. It is 1, the opinion they believe everyone has of them, and 2, the image they build of themselves wanting to feel successful. But why do we chase status? Because as humans, we have an innate desire to fit in. Thus, we have arrived back to the root problem: comparison. If you let people's perception of you dictate your behavior, you will never grow as a person. But if you leave yourself open to experience despite what other people think, you will learn and you will grow as a human. I recently saw a young girl on TikTok talk about why she wanted to be a doctor, so that when men would call her Miss, she could correct them by saying, "That's doctor" to you. First of all, cringe. Second of all, I know she was joking and it was just a silly TikTok. However, I genuinely believe there's a large element of truth to what she said, which is how many young people think nowadays. To me, that is a perfect representation of status chasing and comparison. She wants to be a doctor because she will be viewed as high status in society, and chances are her friends are all pursuing equally high status careers and she wants to fit in, regardless if it is what they genuinely want to do with their life. I talk about careers in a future post, but there's one thing that truly matters when it comes to your career. If it makes you happy, it doesn't have to make sense to anybody else. Don't compare yourself to others. Don't succumb to the status trap. This is something people don't recognize until they are a bit older. Have you ever noticed that old people just don't seem to give a about their lives? They kind of, they'll be naked in saunas. They just don't really seem to care about what other people think because they've hit a point in their life where they go, you know what? I'm too old for this. I can't be bothered to live my life based on the opinions of other people. So don't wait until you're old to live this way. Don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 10. We all know a large amount of social media is fake. But despite knowing this, when we see people achieving more than us, we can't help but compare ourselves to them. For me, my podcast is called Driven Young, and I was never bothered by anyone else's success so long as they were older than me. Even if they were 1 month older, I didn't care because I could justify it in my head, well, they're older than me. But as soon as I saw someone younger than me achieving huge things, that feeling of jealousy would kick in, and I began to compare myself to them. Here's the honest truth. Number 1, most people show their highlight reels online, therefore you don't see their lows, you only see their highs. Number 2, we are all running different races. You can't compare yourself to someone who got a 10-second start. And even if you did start together, you're running your own race. Don't worry. And number 3, in the same way you are comparing yourself to young celebrities or people online wanting what they have, is the same way billions of kids in developing countries worldwide are looking at you. So how do we combat comparison? Well, I have a few tips. Number 1 is weekly wins. Every Monday morning, I spend about 10 to 20 minutes reviewing the previous week with a notepad. I list out all the most significant achievements I made that week, personal or professional. I often think I had a bad week, then I write down everything I achieved, and it's an incredible reminder of the progress I'm making. Number 2, the one person you're allowed to compare yourself to. There is one person you're allowed to compare yourself to, and that is you. Last week, last month, last year. Compare yourself to your past version. Have you improved? Have you grown as a person? Compare yourself to the past you, but you should always strive and chase future you. I want to share a segment from Matthew McConaughey's Oscar-winning speech with you.
And to my hero, that's who I chase. Now, when I was 15 years old, I had a very important person in my life come to me and say, who's your hero? And I said, I don't know, I got to think about that. Give me a couple of weeks. I come back 2 weeks later. This person comes up and says, who's your hero? I said, I thought about it. You know who it is? I said, it's me in 10 years. So I turned 25 10 years later. That same person comes to me and goes, so are you a hero? And I was like, not even close. No. She said, why? I said, because my hero is me at 35. So you see, every day, every week, every month, and every year of my life, my hero is always 10 years away. I'm never going to be my hero. I'm not going to attain that. I know I'm not. And that's just fine with me because that keeps me with somebody to keep on chasing. So to any of us, whatever those things are, whatever it is we look up to, whatever it is we look forward to, and whoever it is we're chasing, to that I say amen. To that I say, all right. And to that I say, just keep living, huh? Thank
you. Number 3. Limit your time on social media. Limit your time on social media. That way you won't be consciously or subconsciously comparing yourself to people 24/7. Another tip is to cull who you follow online and only follow people or pages that bring you joy and are enhancing how you feel. Number 4, and the final one, is celebrate your friends' wins. Rather than be jealous when your friends or someone you know achieves something, why not celebrate with them? Again, this isn't a race. Spreading positivity can only be a good thing. I used to suffer from jealousy within my circle, and maybe to an extent, I still do a little bit. But I can say from the bottom of my heart that when one of my closest friends achieves something big, I'm so excited for them and want to help them get even further, just so long as it isn't too big. That's it. Hopefully my comparison tips helped you, or at least brought this to your awareness so you can tackle it how you please. At this point in life, I simply do not have the energy or the time to be anyone other than who I am. Remember not to worry about people's opinions of you. We are all running at our own race, and succumbing to people's opinions is a gateway to living an unhappy life. Pursue what you want with whom you want. Take off your masks and be authentically you. Life is too short to constantly appease everyone, and by pleasing everyone, you please no one. Stop comparing yourself to other people. Don't bother keeping up with the Joneses. And to finish up, I want to leave you with a quote from Dr. Seuss. Today, you are you, and that is truer than true. There is no one alive who's youer than you. Stay young, stay driven. Now let's move on to the challenge. So your challenge this week. Your challenge this week is to take a social media purge. Open up your social media account of choice, most likely Instagram, and click on who you follow. I want you to unfollow at least 1/3 of that total number. If you're following 1,000 people, then try to unfollow 350 people. Old high school friends you're no longer in contact with, celebrities or influencers that you constantly compare yourself to negatively. Once you've done that, go into your followers and remove a quarter minimum of your followers. Purge your social media so it's difficult to constantly compare yourself to other people. Do this and see how you feel. Many of my friends have done it years after high school, and I'm not saying these people are bad that you're removing. By no means are they bad. You just don't need to be comparing yourself to them, and they're not bringing any value in your life. They're people that you met years ago and you're no longer in contact with. Best of luck for this. I know this could be a little bit intimidating. 1/3 of your followers or 1/3 of who you're following is a large amount, but I did this like 2 years ago. Some of my friends have done it and none of us have regretted it. So I highly recommend taking out this challenge. It only takes like an hour, 2 hours, maybe just sit there while you're watching TV and just go through and unfollow a whole bunch of people. Purge your social media. Start following people and pages that bring you joy rather than people and pages that you're constantly comparing yourself to. Now, this doesn't mean that these people are bad. I already mentioned that. You might have an influencer who means well, but she's constantly posting bikini pics and you have issues around your body. And so by constantly seeing these perfect bodies up your feed isn't going to be healthy for you. So it really comes down to the individual. But that's a blog post. That's your challenge. I hope you decide to take it. Now I'm going to riff a little bit and see where we go. So comparison, it's such a huge one. I already mentioned it's so much bigger than our other generations. I personally am quite a big fan of ignorance is bliss, as in I don't need to know everything that's going on so long as it's not affecting me negatively. I already mentioned this in the previous episode about ignorance is bliss, but I think other generations had a level of ignorance is bliss. They didn't know how good life could have been, and as a result, they weren't constantly striving to live their best life. I guess the blessing and the curse is we know how good life can be because of social media. We're seeing how other people are living their life, and so as a result, we're not settling quite as easy. We want to chase and live a more fulfilling life than maybe previous generations. The issue is that we have comparison. And we're constantly comparing ourselves to these people. And so we might be living what is, by standards of our older generations, a really good life, but we don't see it as a good life because we're constantly chasing the better life. And this is kind of the hedonic treadmill we get stuck on. We're constantly chasing a better life, and we're never happy with how we are today. How you live your days is how you live your life. So stop getting caught up in comparison. I know for me, if we talk about followers, right? Not everyone wants followers, but if I said, hey, you're 100,000 followers, I think most people would say yes, because you can make money off it. It's great for your status, blah, blah, blah. Not everyone, but I think majority of young people would say yes. That's why I use that example. But for me, I've got about 400,000 followers on my personal account, just over 1 million followers on TikTok across a few accounts. And I'm an educational creator. And if I see someone who's like making comedy skits and I've got more followers than me, I don't really care. Like, we're in different niches. But even though I'm teaching this message and I'm very hyper aware of comparison and how that can be the thief of joy and how that's really toxic to have a lot of the time, I'll see someone who's doing what I'm doing, and it might be a podcast account or it might be another educational creator, and they've got more followers than me. And I just can't help but in the back of my head go, damn it, how did they do that? They're better than me. And again, if you're someone who uses other people to fuel you as motivation, that's great. I think it's really healthy. If you're like looking at people who inspire you and you're trying to aspire to be like them, that's a good version of comparison. But it's just finding the balance. This is all subjective. It totally comes down to how you view life. And there are people out there that I compare myself to because I want to be like them. But ultimately, you want to be comparing yourself to yourself. How have you improved every single week? And there might be weeks where you haven't improved or you've gone back down. When COVID hit, maybe you look back and you went, you know what, I was better before COVID. And that's fine. There's no right or wrong, only outcome. There is no right or wrong. That's a big thing a lot of people have, I experience. Just like, You're either right or you're wrong. Well, yeah, in some cases, but in a lot of cases, no, you can kind of both be right. Everyone has different opinions and it's very subjective. The iceberg effect, of course, for anyone who's heard me talk about the iceberg effect, an iceberg usually only shows about 10% of the iceberg out of the water. And meaning if you see a massive iceberg, it's like 8 times, 10 times bigger underneath the water, which is why the Titanic hit the iceberg, because they saw this big iceberg and they went, oh, we can go through that. That doesn't matter. Turns out it was like ginormous underneath the water, and that's what sunk the boat. And just like the iceberg effect, we just see the 10%. We just see the success, the 10% on social media. We don't see how much hard work went into it. That quote from Messi, it's like it took me 16 years and 49 days to become an overnight success. And people always say they became an overnight success. It's like not many people did that. Not many people became an overnight success. They just had one thing which kind of skyrocketed them, but it took them years and years to get to that one thing. So don't get caught comparing yourself to other people, because you can't compare your chapter 1 to someone's chapter 10. So really just focus on yourself. What else? Wearing masks. We talked about this at Empower You and I mentioned it in the blog post. Really focus on taking off your masks. And what I mean by that is we often wear different masks around different friend groups. At work, you might have a mask. At school, you might have a mask. With your parents or your family, you might have a mask. With your extended family, you might have a different mask. With your gamer friends, you might have a different mask. And these are all, kind of avatars of you. But how often are you you? How often are you authentically you, living without any masks on? And I think that's a really important thing. If you're not comparing yourself to others and you're not getting caught up in the status trap, you can just live life as you. I mentioned it before, I just don't have the time and energy to be anything other than I am. It's just exhausting, like small talk or like having to like play the game. You know the game I'm talking about, where you've got to the game. I think you know what I'm talking about. Of like, hey, how you going? Blah, blah, blah. That's amazing. What do you do? Blah, 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 right? I heard this amazing quote from Brené Brown. I was listening to a book and she was like, when you meet someone, you go up to them and you say, hey, I'm Byron, how, blah, blah, blah. So what do you do? And what she was saying is, I want to rank you on how important this conversation is. And I was like, holy shit, that's so true. Whenever you meet someone, so what do you do? Oh, you're a doctor? Okay, that's important. Oh, you're in business? That's important. Oh, you're just a teacher? This conversation isn't that important to me. The reason I say that is because I love teachers. I think they're severely underappreciated in society. But yeah, it's like, that's the status trap. The status game. Lawyers, engineers, doctors, these are all high status roles in society. Why do you truly want to do them? Do you want to be a doctor because you want to help people, because you love the idea of chemistry, maths, and helping people? Or do you want to be a doctor so you can put doctor in front of your name? Either way, they're both qualified, and either way, they're probably going to do well. But I'd rather have the one who's passionate rather than the one who's there purely for status reasons because their parents wanted them to. This is a lot more common in different, probably less white culture, like in my experience, Indian culture and Asian cultures. Actually my next episode after this episode, I had an Indian woman on and she was telling me about this, how like those cultures heavily push like doctor, engineer, lawyer, like those really high status, thought after traditional pathways. And in some cases, in some countries, you're not even respected unless you're doing one of those high status roles, which is so much pressure. Like, they're such difficult roles, and if you're not passionate about it and you're just doing it, that's so sad. It breaks my heart. It really, really does break my heart, and I hope we can help change this for future generations. So guys, comparison is really going to create a lot of jealousy, I find. Jealousy is not a good thing to do. I mean, obviously it's human nature, you can't avoid it, but it kind of is as simple as a switch. Even the other day, someone close to me had a big win, and I caught myself, like just a tiny bit of myself, kind of being jealous for that she was doing cool stuff, even though I'm doing cool stuff as well, completely different stuff. And I caught just a little bit of myself. And I was like, what are you doing, Byron? Like, I should be so happy for her. And so my immediate reaction was to kind of like not say anything. And I was like, you know what? No, I'm happy for her. And I like reached out and I said congratulations and everything. So sometimes it is as simple as a mindset shift. So yeah, that's it, guys. That's it for me. Try switch jealousy. Hopefully that helped. Don't compare yourself to their highlight reel. Comparison is the thief of joy. If it makes you happy, it doesn't have to make sense to anybody else. I would rather be a public success. I don't want to be a public success, but a private failure. When you have a home it's very tempting to have a really, really stunning home on the outside. So when people drive past, they see that your neighbors know you as this person with this beautiful home. But what's the point of that if inside is broken? If it's really gross, it's messy and disgusting inside. Because the truth is, you live inside your house. You live inside your house, not on the outside. You're better off being a public failure and a private success. Focus on yourself. Stop comparing yourself to other people. And as per usual, stay young, stay driven, and I'll see you on the next episode.